Hello, I'm MK Davis. I want to talk a little bit about an adventure that I went on back in July. When I went out to Oregon to speak at a conference out there, the Summerfest there in Oak Ridge, Oregon, I took a few more days to try to pay a visit to some of the other places that I wanted to look at while I was in the area or going to the area. And one of these was the Truckee River in that would be in northern Nevada. Now, the reason why the Truckee River was important to me was because I had received a report that there was in the past a giant, what you would call a giant, that had been killed by Indians and buried along the Truckee River. And I wanted to go and see if I could find the place. I'd actually seen a photograph taken in the 1950s. And they had used river rocks to cover the body up. They didn't dig a hole, but they used river rock to cover it up. And it had sort of a basic outline. And at least in the 1950s, it was recognizable. So I wanted to go and see if I could find that again. So what I did was basically just look at the Truckee River from start to stop. The Truckee River starts in Lake Tahoe. Well, Lake Tahoe is a very famous lake. Truckee River spills out of Lake Tahoe and goes through the mountain passes and out into the desert and comes to an end in the Pyramid Lake area near Nixon, Nevada. Let me just go to these. Here's Lake Tahoe, and this is the Truckee River coming out of Lake Tahoe. See, it's a popular spot for people who like to float down the lake, the river. It's got some rapids and stuff in it, but by and large, it's a pretty safe float. You can hear all the activity. A beautiful place. There's the Lake Tahoe. How about those guys? Looks like two people. enjoying their time at Lake Tahoe. I fuzzed out on it. Wow. Now, I have traveled all the way to the desert country, following the Truckee River, and this is the area where I have narrowed it down to where that grave almost certainly has to be. And I took a little video as I went along the Truckee, tried to walk, but it was pretty grown up. See, quite a different environment.
Not much you can tell.
That's a trail. Truckee's River's off to the left. Here comes a hawk. Okay, I flew my drone. Let me see if I can find my drone. Oh, let me go back. Here they are right there. Oh, there we go. Now I'm looking for a giant's grave that I have seen a photograph of. You can see that we're in desert. There's the river. Now, this giant's grave was photographed. It was just right close to the river, kind of up on the bank somewhat, and had that river rock creating the grave. Wasn't buried underground, but it was somewhere under that pile of rock. And what I was told was that Native Americans, I think they were Paiutes, were every year putting more rock on it. for quite a number of generations, actually. And gradually they kind of dropped that off some. They quit going, and now the site itself seems to be hard to find. But this area right here looks, in the original photograph, you could see the background, and this has some of that background. So I feel like I was very close, and we're actually not very far from the end of the Truckee River, where it goes into Pyramid Lake. This giant had been really causing a lot of misery for the Indians. He had killed a bunch of Indians, and in a very cruel way, too. He picked them up by the ankle and just smashed their heads against the rocks, just like a fly swat. And so there was 300 warriors ambushed him, filled him, made a pincushion out of him. He still made it 1.5 miles before he fell. That's a fish hatchery there. Doesn't look like they're using it much right now. That's the actual fish hatchery right there. I think this is going to involve just landing. Let's go on past. This is up in the Bitterroots, so let's go back. Well, looky here. This is the actual pile of rocks that this giant is under. You can see in the background the tops of these hills. That's why I say it looked very familiar compared to what I was looking at, somewhere in that area. Now, back over here. Now this right here is fossils. It's fossilized algae.
Take your next slight left onto Chicken Road.
I don't think so.
You see the algae there. It's a concretion.
All right, Chicken Road.
Didn't see any chickens on that road.
Take your next slight right onto Chicken Road. Take a slight right onto Chicken Road.
I think she's kind of mixed up.
Take your next sharp right onto Chicken Road. Take a sharp right onto Chicken Road.
I am on Chicken Road.
In 600 feet, turn left.
Okay, now I made my way on down to the Indian reservation, and on that reservation they had a museum. So I went to go see the museum, and this lady was working there, and she had a kind of an understudy working there with her. And I mentioned to them what I was looking for, what I had come there for, and they instantly said, Lovelock. I said, no, I'm not looking for Lovelock. That's not what I'm talking about. This particular place would be a giant's grave along the Truckee River. She said she had not heard of that. Well, while I was talking to her and she was telling me that she hadn't heard of it, behind her about 10 feet was this. Let me find it here. This large rock metate or mortar was found during the construction projects near Dead Ox Canyon. Nothing of this type, especially of this size and depth with steep sides, has ever been found in this place before. It's huge. Never heard of a giant. What? A giant around here? Excuse me. I'm a little bit hoarse. I'm going to get out of this and go over to these still photos and read that completely. Archaeologists and other specialists have looked at it and don't have a clue what it was used for or if it is prehistoric. If you have any idea, please let us know. Well, I have an idea. It's definitely prehistoric. You can just look at it and tell. Hold on. I mean, look at it. Something was grinding. You ever heard the old saying, a giant says, "I'll grind your bones to make me bread"? I think it was in reference to one of these. That's not your average size metate or pestle and mortar. It's huge. It's for some giant purpose. But they had never heard of a giant in the area. Well, anyway, so let me go. I went to just right down from there, just a short distance, and I had to pay a little fee to be able to, walk freely on the reservation. And I'll show you why they call it Pyramid Lake. That's why. See where that silty water meets the clear water? The silty water's coming from the Truckee River. Well, at the source, it's very clear, but it goes through the mountain passes, and they have started up a bunch of mines. And the tailings from those mines is getting in the water and making it cloudy and silty. So by the time it arrives down in Pyramid Lake, it's very muddy, silty looking. And you can see this construction right there. I thought that was kind of neat because you can see them both in the same field of view. You notice the lake is conspicuously absent of people. And I was told that the reason why was that there were water babies living in the lake that would pull you under. And there was a healthy fear of that. So I went all the way around the lake to the upper end of it and didn't see anybody in the lake. Period. Fishing, boating, anything. quite unlike Tahoe. Same water. This water came from Tahoe. I went inside of that thing too. I think it was made in kind of a honorarium of that pyramid out there in the lake. Far out there. Well, that's about all I have for you tonight. But the adventure goes on, and I'll have more. But I wanted to get to this part so that I made sure that I covered this giant pestle and mortar, who they found it down where this giant was killed, and his grave was visible at least until the 1950s. So did I succeed with my adventure? I don't know. It's just kind of how you look at it. I don't think it was a total bust, but I didn't find the grave, but I found this giant pestle and mortar. Let's go back and look at it one more time. If you have any idea, please let us know. I have an idea. They didn't seem to think that it was associated with anything modern. And it don't look like it. It looks handmade. Different. The walls of the thing are different thicknesses. Got kind of a notch right here. Could that have belonged to the giant, the one that had the 300 warriors kill him? It was in this area. There's the Truckee River right there. And there is the giant, covered in river rock. You see those mountains, or, hills in the background. I was in the right area. Let me read that. The so-called Giant's Grave on the Pyramid Lake Indian Reservation. The observer can almost see the outlines of a body there. Let me see if I can read it. The careful observer, okay. I guess the giant came down from the north and killed hundreds of warriors by picking them up and knocking their heads together with such force as to crush their skulls. Others were caught up by the heels and dashed to death on the rocks. Faced with annihilation, the Paiute leaders held a council and decided upon a plan to rid themselves of the creature. On the given day, the party of 300 men armed with bows and arrows concealed themselves behind rocks in the Truckee Canyon and await their nemesis. He was seen approaching with a long string of fish and a great number of rabbits slung over his shoulder upon a rope. When he got within range, the concealed warriors stood up simultaneously, and each discharged an arrow. He turned and fled out of the canyon, pursued by the warriors, but fell dead within a half mile. I got it wrong a while ago. The men feasted upon the fish and rabbits and buried their adversary where he fell. No monument was ever erected to mark the final resting place of the giant, but the descendants of those who carried out the execution have conducted an annual pilgrimage. And the rest of it's lost. They cut it out of there and cut some of it out. All right. So that's the story, as they say, from Pyramid Lake. And we'll take up this adventure at a later date, and we'll go into the Bitterroots of Montana, the Mount Lassen, the Mount Shasta area. We'll go to Oak Ridge, Oregon, where the conference was held. Was an adventure on wheels. I thank you for your time.